Good morning and welcome back to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke. And yeah, we did not come online yesterday because it wasn't, because I had no power, I had no electricity, I had no internet. And what happened, so I think today I'm going to probably be talking a bit about what happened, not because I necessarily want to make this about, oh, here's a narrative of something that's going on, particularly in my life, but I feel like there was a lot that occurred there was a lot to be learned from what happened. And good morning, Jen. There's a lot to be learned from kind of what happened over the last couple of days, which is quite interesting. So Thursday morning, I did my live stream here. I did my normal morning coffee thing. I had actually downloaded it to my phone, and I was going to get ready to upload it after I had my breakfast to my laptop, to YouTube. And then I happened to see there was a severe weather alert. It said, severe thunderstorm, like take shelter immediately kind of thing, which is what they usually say. Thunderstorms are not that weird around here. I mean, they're pretty common, especially in springtime. And we can have some pretty intense ones. We can have some with intense winds. It can be hail a bit, but it's not usually a big thing. It's like, okay, it comes through and then it goes away. Well, I was downstairs. I think I was actually watching something on TV while I was doing that. And then all of a sudden, like the storm, I could see the black clouds, but the storm just suddenly came in and the rain came down. Like it was like you were in the middle of a waterfall. My sister had told me that when it hit her house, she had left windows open just a crack. She said it soaked her entire floor and her curtains and everything. She said, "Oh my God," it just whoosh, just came in really, really, really hot and hard. Sounds weird. Anyway, but it came in really, really fast like that, and so and I just and the lightning. It was like literally like earth, house shaking. It was like boom. I was like, okay, that was a powerful storm. And the electric kind of went on and off a little bit, but then it went out. And I thought, okay, well, let me give it a few minutes because let the storm move through, and then I will call the electric company if it doesn't come back on. Well, again, they initially said, oh, power will be back on by 11:30 in the morning. Then it became, oh no, now power's not going to be back on until 7 p.m. Then it became, power's going to be back on by 11 p.m., but they changed the date, 11 p.m., of the 24th, not the 23rd. And I hadn't noticed that at first. And it was, because the next day, because I was, right after 11, I'm like, that's funny, I should have gotten an update from them. But then when I went and read it, I went, oh no, it's not that it's 11 o'clock tonight, it's 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And there were traffic lights out and stuff for an extended period of time. Oh, and good morning, Sam. Which is very unusual around here. We don't normally have things like that. It's like if there's going to be a light out, the electric company is usually there to fix that right away because that's a major safety hazard, especially on the highway. I mean, well, the road next to me is called a highway. Maybe use that term advisedly, but nonetheless, I mean, when you have traffic lights, and there was people who couldn't make left turns into certain areas, and there was a lot of damage. So it was very odd. So of course, having electric out, again, not something that I'm unfamiliar with or that people live around here can be unfamiliar with at times. We've been fairly lucky here that doesn't tend to happen too often. We lived through Hurricane Sandy, which was probably, my goodness, probably like 12 years ago now. Can't believe it was that long ago. But we didn't have power for like 3-4 weeks because it was just, it was statewide and it was just it was literally a national disaster. I mean, it was huge. So, we've lived through things like that before, but this was something very localized. It was literally like my community and some of the surrounding townships that got hammered. And it was, but 88% of it was in the borough where I live. So because everybody around me is just like, oh, you don't have power? Like, yeah, because I drove to a town 10 minutes away. They were fine. They had power. And I ended up, but some people even said that it was a possibility it was a tornado that came through, but I didn't see any kind of circular motion, not that you could really see much of anything, but some people said that they thought that might be what happened. In any case, it was basically 2 days without electric, and all things considered, it could have been worse. First of all, I could have had damage to my house, which I didn't. I did have a massive tree limb. I posted a photo of that fell off, and that's like an 8-foot limb. And it was funny because I was sitting here, I was just like, okay, there's nothing else for me to do. So I was spending some time doing my integrated Amrita meditation, the eye meditation that I I shared the link about a few days ago. But literally I'd gotten through like the first part and was moving on to the second one, and I hear this loud, like, I can't explain. It was just like a loud rumble, and like I just heard like a crash, and I was like, all right, I have to get up and find out what that is. And I go outside, and there's like an 8-foot limb from my tree, a massive section that's just slammed down, like right on my neighbor's property, like where the line is. And I'm like, oh great, I'm gonna have to deal with that now, because if I don't deal with it now, let's just say that she will express her displeasure at the fact that it's there. So I was like, all right, but I mean, you couldn't move it. It was so heavy. And so I got out my shears and I started like taking pieces off and bringing it away, because obviously try to make it lighter so I can pull it. And I'm all bruised up from trying to do that, because it was just, it just, even removing all those pieces and getting rid of them and getting them into the woods, it was like I just couldn't lift the thing. So then what happens is, mind you, all my neighbors are at work now and everything, because I work from home, and everybody else is, I think the guy across the street is away somewhere, and, everybody else there was nobody around. So I just thought, great, this is just great. And I knew I had to move this, and it was just really exhausting me. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, this guy walks down the street. I've never seen this guy before. I've lived here 21 years, never seen this guy before. And the way he was dressed, it was almost like he was like business casual. He had like light colored pants. I don't know if they were khakis, but they were light colored pants, and he had like a polo shirt on that was like blue, I think, or something like that. And he kind of had longish hair and like a ponytail, and he had like a very well trimmed beard. And, but he looked like he was ready to go to work, basically. And he smiled and he said, hey, do you need some help with that? And I said, yeah, please, And he just said, yeah, he says, I'm walking around helping people today. He said, the whole town is trashed. And he just picked up one end of it. I picked up the other end, and very easily we were able to move it at least into my driveway so that I can, my brother-in-law can come over with his chainsaw and chop it up. But I was just like, wow, he just literally showed up, and then not another word, he just turned and he left. And I've never seen him since, which I thought was really odd. Now, again, we have a lot of renters in town. I mean, it's quite possible he's one of the renters, and I've just not seen him before, because there are a lot of people in town I don't see. I don't tend to hang out on the main street, There's a lot of people I don't see. So he very, very likely is a local. But his whole method of coming and going, like, he literally just showed up, said, oh, you need help. And then he literally left. And I couldn't help but feeling like, okay, that was just really unusual. And because nobody comes down, we're like the orphan side of, like, nobody comes over to my side of town. And he did. He just walked in, and then he just walked away. And he also wasn't dressed to be helping people, like, move stuff, It was just really an odd experience. And it made me think that, you know what I mean? Sometimes you ask for intervention, and sometimes you get it. And, oh, good morning, Leila. It's, you ask for that intervention, and then you get it. So the fact that this guy just randomly shows up out of the blue, helps me move this tree limb, and then randomly disappears. And I've not seen him anywhere since. Because I have been driving around town. I've had to take a lot of detours because they've been doing tree work and stuff like that. Yeah, everything's back to normal today. But I woke up, I had a terrible night sleeping because I couldn't, even though the night was fairly cool out, I have, I'm 40 plus, right? So I was having a hard time sleeping. I really need a fan on, or I need something, even if I couldn't have. And as you may have noticed, I got my hair done yesterday, because I had a pre-scheduled appointment. And when I went down there, my hairdresser lives in the same township. She doesn't live in the borough where I live. She lives in the same township. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't sleep last night. I got like 2 hours of sleep. And, and I was exactly the same way. But here was the other weird thing. Suddenly around, I guess it was like a little after 3:30 in the morning, I hear like this, I feel like this like rumble and this crack, like this rumble and this crack. I was like, what the heck is that? Because I thought it sounded to me like another branch had fallen off of my tree. Okay, and I thought, oh my God, but I wasn't really aware that, I mean, it was a very still night. And the really beautiful thing, the one beautiful thing about this whole event was that there were no streetlights. I have a streetlight outside that I absolutely hate. And because it just, when I'm trying to look at the view in the morning, it just lights everything up in a way that I'm like, I don't need to see all this, I just want it, I want to see natural light. I don't need all these garish streetlights around. So there were no unnatural lights, okay? There were no fluorescent lights or people's lights on their houses. All that was out. So I had a really beautiful view of the full moon, which was just great. And because I was waking up every hour, I kind of got to see it move. But then all of a sudden I heard this, and I literally went downstairs because I thought, and I actually swore almost that another branch had fallen, or at least that pieces had. And I was like, but what spurred that? Because to me, it was just felt like, and I did feel kind of like a shake. Well, turns out, when I was talking to my hairdresser, she goes, by the way, did you feel the earthquake around 340-ish or 350? I was like, that was another earthquake? So we had this massive thunderstorm, and then we had this earthquake. And it was just, it's kind of funny. I mean, again, I didn't think it was anything other than, because I just thought that's just really odd if things are randomly falling off my tree. And by the way, when I finally had daylight, nothing had fallen off my tree. I could have sworn that I saw another branch on the ground. Maybe, I don't know. But there wasn't. So I was like, what is that? And when she said that, I said, okay, that's what that was. There was like literally an earthquake, and that was the crack and the vibration that I heard was actually from that. So yeah, interesting and kind of volatile energy around here. But really, okay, as far as the transition stuff, I feel like I'm bringing it up in the context of this particular morning feed, because to me, this is like, okay, this is really a really good kind of live, real world example of working through when you have the unexpected and the unpredictable just kind of fly in. Now, mind you, we knew that there was a storm coming. Okay, it's not like what I've talked about, the way in which I was talking the other day about predictability, the fact that science, we tend to prefer science over religion because we think it has a better prediction factor. And the thing is, it definitely, yes, they definitely predicted the storm and said, oh, this is what could happen. But they still can't tell you what's going to happen, and it did not affect everybody in the same way. And from what I looked at on the radar, I said, well, we're just going to probably get the edge of this. Normally my town, it kind of splits and it misses us. But this time we were probably the epicenter of it. And it was just, so again, even with the predictions, nobody could tell you that this was going to happen. And I mean, certainly the electric company was not prepared, and they had to bring in crews from out of state just for this little area. But fortunately, because I was out yesterday, I said, okay, I'm going to stay out all day. I'm not going to come back home, because what am I going to do? Just sit in the house all day with no air conditioning? No, I can't cook anything. I can't do anything. I can't watch anything. Oh, I might as well just be out and do stuff. So it was really, but to me, it was like, okay, because I realized, I said, okay, this is kind of one of those transitional moments where you have, I want to talk about this all month, really. How you have plans, right? I have a plan. I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to get done. This is my target date. I've got to get this done by this date. I have these obligations that I do every day. And it was almost like, oh, you have those. Okay. Somebody had said to me, I had gotten a DM from somebody who had asked me about, because somebody just wondered if this was some kind of, speculating as to whether or not this was some kind of an attack, like a psychic attack or something like that. And I said, no, I actually don't see it that way. I actually see this, it's like the Tower card in the tarot deck. We look at the Tower and we think, oh no, there's a catastrophe coming. But to me, this is like, okay, this is the two sides of the Tower card. Excuse me. One side is just that, oh my God, yes, this disruptive thing has happened. And literally whatever it is I wanted to do is just shut down, because I can't, where I live and everything. My sister did call me yesterday morning, and she said, hey, do you want to come to my house? She's like, she had power. She's like, I can, you can have lunch here, we can do this and that. But since I'd already had plans to be out for the day, I said, yeah, thanks. I said, if it's still out tomorrow, maybe I'll take you up on that. But it was, but it was really, it's the two sides of the Tower card, because on the one hand, yes, it's disruptive, it's inconvenient. I did not sleep well. My hairdresser was saying, she's like, I didn't sleep. She was, she wasn't cranky, but she was just kind of acting. You could tell she was like, I got like 2 hours last night. She was not happy. And but she was the one who had told me about the earthquake, and she was also like kind of surveying customers about whose power had come back, and that's when she told me, she's like, hey, the light's out again on by Spruce Run, so maybe, there's Spruce Run condos. She's like, I think you're going to be, better, that you might have power back, but as it turns out, I didn't get power back until 7 o'clock last night. So, but the good side of it was that, okay, so I'm like, all right, so now all those things that you felt you had to be doing, all that important stuff I have to be doing, even doing this, which I enjoy doing, it was like, okay, well, you can't do any of that now. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, I can't stay at home. I had to go out to get food because I couldn't cook. And so I just said, you know what, I'm just going to leave the house. And like I said, I already had this appointment for my hair. And when I went down, after that, but I got there early and I was like, I'm going to go walk by the river. I'm going to go, because this is in the town of Clinton. I posted pictures yesterday of the Clinton Red Mill, which is a pretty iconic tourist attraction, I guess. And of course, because it's the Memorial Day weekend, there were a ton of people out. Like a lot of people took the long weekend, I think. So, and schools may have even been out in some places, maybe because of power issues and down trees and stuff. So yeah, there was a lot of people of all ages kind of wandering around the town of Clinton that day. And, I saw a few little mallards that were kind of just sitting on the sidewalk. And I was like, okay. I was walking down the main street back towards where the salon was. And I was just like, oh, okay. But it was nice because I was like, okay, I can just walk around and just kind of look at things. I can observe things. I wanted to be by the water because I felt like, okay, that's, I always feel like that is a kind of a clearing energy that we have. And eventually I drove up because I was going to be meeting a friend for dinner. We were discussing this. I've talked many times, maybe more on the other channel than on this one, but I'm talking about the school that I'm starting. And this is one of the people I wanted to be involved in that. And so I drove up to the town where I used to work and where I went to university. And I said, okay, I've got time. It's not, and I was thinking about going to some of the libraries around there, but then I thought, no, it's a summer Friday. Like everything's closed. Like they're not open on the Fridays usually. And so I was like, okay, well, I ended up going to Nature Reserve, which is nearby, and called the Wanaka Brook. And I went in there and I just kind of parked, and it was actually nice enough. It was hot, but it wasn't obscenely hot. Like if you sat in the shade, there was like a breeze and everything. It wasn't like we were stifling. And as I was sitting just on this bench, just near this waterfall there, all of a sudden I see a blue heron come flying down. And I was like, oh, I've seen herons, but not quite that close. And it kind of was like just, it landed and it was just kind of walking around. So I went over this bridge and I went around and went down to where it was. And I was probably only about 2 feet away from it, 2 or 3 feet away. So I managed to grab a photo of it. But I just kind of took the photo and left because I didn't want to startle it. But I had this very tall blue heron. I mean, just kind of, there's just all these little things that it was like, wow, like you're kind of there and you're there for it. And the thing is, there was all these other people in the park, and I don't think a single other person noticed this bird, which is interesting. It was just, to me, it was like, okay, when you have a moment of crisis like that and everything stops, then it's kind of like what I say about the mind with meditation. It's like you have this stuff going on all the time about everything you have to do, and then it stops. And then you can kind of hear what's actually there, or you can see what's actually there. And that was my thing. I was like, no, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to tune in to what's there, because you don't have the noise of what I'm supposed to be doing, okay, and how I'm supposed to be doing it. The nature, whatever, has put the brakes on it, and it did make me think too about how meditation is. Well, okay, I talk a lot about how we are so involved in the mind, and I think I posted a quote from Jung where he was saying we're so focused on the mind that we don't listen to the body anymore. And it occurred to me, I said, when we have things like these kinds of big storms, or we have earthquakes, or we have things like that. To me, that's paying attention to the body of the earth. The earth is the body of the collective. I mean, we live here in this world, right? So this is the body of the collective. And this is the body of the collective that's saying something. Now, again, earthquakes and things are not unnatural. It's not like this is some, I'm not advocating for some kind of apocalyptic or revelatory event, because I don't think that's what's going on. But these are all things that happen to kind of get us to pay attention to something, in the same way that we, when have certain pains or certain things that happen in the body, it's like trying to get us to pay attention to something. And so, I don't know, I just felt like it was like, it really, if you think about COVID was like a whole long stretch of, hey, pay attention, because we're so focused on things that we think are important. Now, when I was out to dinner last night with my friend, this is a friend of mine who I've known for, we went to grad school together. And, I mean, brilliant lecturer. This guy's brilliant lecturer. Really knows poetry really well. He knows literature very well. It's a very unusual thing, because a lot of people don't focus on that anymore. And so when I'm starting this kind of school, which I think so far the people I've talked to who I'm getting involved in this all agree, like, yeah, let's start small. Let's start small, a little more informally, and then let's branch out and see. So I may just actually run an experiment on my own without a lot of funding, and maybe just trying to bring in enough money to kind of give stipends to people who help me out, and then see how it goes, like, and see how many people we get, how much interest there is, and then kind of see where we go from there. And then at that point, I'm still writing up a business plan and stuff like that for this school, because I feel like I need to have, if I decide to go try to get funding, then it's like, okay, you need to have a mission statement, you need to have a vision, you need to have all that stuff to be able to even apply. That's all the little hoops and games you play that you jump through. But one of the things I've noticed about my friend was that it just seemed lately, who now works more in university administration, and it's like, well, I guess this is fine. Like I felt like when we would talk about this kind of stuff, he always kind of really always used to light up, and now he's just kind of like, well, yeah, but I don't know what anybody cares that much about it anymore. I don't know. I mean, he says, well, understand certain things. I don't really know if this is, because if you get an educational administration, everybody's just like, oh yeah, well, we're just interested in the numbers. We're just interested that people have checked these boxes. We're just interested that, and he says, when I try to talk about some of these ideas, because we were talking about how the humanities as a field is now, it's being disenfranchised, it's being trashed. And a lot of students, because they don't want to be involved in the process of thinking about that, because they're just trying to check a box, because this is now all corporatized. Now they are just interested in, they use AI, because it's like, well, you know what, here, this sounds good, this will sound good to my professor, so this is good enough. And so we were talking about trying to teach in that kind of environment. And the whole point of my school is like, no, I don't want it to be that kind of environment. I don't want people to have the pressure of meeting a grade or something like that. I want people to be able to produce something that means something to them. Like, that's really what the point of this school is going to be. But it's kind of like, making the humanities sexy again a little bit. The humanities are important. And I mean, the word humans, like, written right in there, right? This is part of what makes our consciousness unique. And it's a way that we are responding. I was reading part of Alan Watts's Psychotherapy East and West yesterday. That was another thing I had some time to do. And I was that book just is already, like everything he writes, just kind of is blowing me away in the way that he talks about it. But he said, you have to understand, he talks about field theory. He said, we exist in a field. We exist in relation to other things. We don't exist, everything like psychiatry and everything tries to act like something is happening to us in a vacuum, but it's not. Everything that you do exists in relation to other people. And see, at that time, psychotherapy was expanding the way it was doing things. Gestalt therapy and things like that is all about that. It's about backgrounds and relations and things like that. Now we've moved back into a model where no, everything's cognitive and everything is medicine based, and all the rest of it, because it doesn't have evidence, we don't pay attention to anymore. And the thing is, that's what's happening with education too. We're only interested in the numbers. We're interested in retention. We're interested in the students scored this here and they scored this here, so that shows a growth. That shows this. That shows that. It doesn't show anything. Okay, it doesn't show anything, and except that you know how to, and people know how to manipulate those numbers too. People. Districts do it all the time. And then you get and then the student's the one who gets the short end of the stick, because then when they go to a university environment where you have a teacher who expects that they can, write papers and cite things properly and do all this stuff, they're lost. They've never had to do it because they were classified as something, put in a little box, and then when they got to university, I've had students tell me, Professor, I've never written, I'm like, how could you get through high school without writing a term paper? They're like, no, they classified them as special. All I had to write was 2 paragraphs and I got the same grade. Right, so they can make the grades look good to the state, who are now trying to tie teachers' income and raises to their students' performance. So as soon as you start playing this numbers game, the students lose. And so to me, I'm like, okay, I don't know. I guess my friend was saying that I don't know how interested are people. I said, I think people are interested. I said, I sure as heck think people are interested. How big the audience is, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the idea is you have to kind of start somewhere with this. And get the people who really know the subjects, and who really, not people who are going to be sitting there about, I think we need, I want it to be something, it's like, those of us who have gotten doctoral degrees, it's like, we did that, you don't get it, if you're getting a doctorate to check a box, I mean, I guess there are some doctorates that are like that. But to me, this is not about checking a box. This is like, no, you really have to be committed and passionate about what you're doing to put this kind of work in, especially a humanities doctorate. And so I feel like a lot of the people, or even in the social sciences, like the people that I'm working with, it's like, no, these are people who love, their subject is something that they love. And all of this other detail, admin, red tape, or even what they perceive of as the indifference of society to this, because whatever, I can just, I don't have to write a book, AI can churn one out for me. I don't need to make art, I'll just put a bunch of keywords in and look, I created a piece of art. That's, I think I've talked about how that's the way that in which, whether it's writing or art or music, the way it cannibalizes itself, because it's basically an algorithm that's saying, oh, you want something like this, this, and this, here, let's piece it together. And that's what ends up happening. So, I don't know. So anyway, it's just, I feel like, in having this conversation last night, I'm like, I feel like it was like, okay, there's a lot of feeling that somehow humanities and humanness is kind of dead. But I feel like, if anything, the whole experience over the last couple of days has kind of said to me, okay, first of all, this is the reason you have crises, because that's when everything slows down. That's when the sense of everything I'm supposed to do just slows down. And you're actually able to take another viewpoint on things. You're actually, when you are not good at silencing your own mind, it's like nature will do it for you. It's just like, well, I was going to do this today and this, and this, but I have no electricity, so I can't do it. I mean, and even like I said, the libraries and stuff I thought about going to for the day, they were all closed. So it was like, okay, this is just a day when you just need to just be. You just need to be. You don't need to be, I don't need to do something important, No, there's no need to do something important all the time. Oh, somebody just said that they lost me. I hope, I still, as far as I can tell, I'm still live and connected. So I don't know if, I don't know how long I was lost there for. So yeah, the fact that you're there, I'm assuming, Jen, that you're back. Basically, I was just saying, over the last couple of days, I feel like it's saying that, sometimes the brakes are put on because we need, especially if we're in the middle of a transition. It's very unsettling to us. It's very unsettling to the body. It's unsettling to the mind, but that's kind of the point. The point is that you want to, every now and again, you want to be unsettled, because otherwise you would never change the things you have to change. You would find a way to convince yourself that the space that you're in is good enough, even if you suspect that, okay, oh, you had to restart it. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's, I just feel like it's, the last couple of days have just been kind of a reminder at an interesting time, and I feel like, and I think also the other piece of that had occurred to me was the way we always talk about the inside and the outside, right? The individual versus the collective. I don't know that there's really a difference between the individual and the collective. I feel like when things happen, the effects are, I mean, yes, there's a way it affects us individually, but our internal response to it is a reflection of what's going on outside. So the kind of chaos. So the question is, okay, if you react very badly to those kinds of things, then that may be reflective of a chaos that we perceive as internal. If you're able to flow with it, then, maybe you're doing okay. It's almost like it's a test. I had mentioned something about my guru the other day, because I had said, because whenever I would do her program after which I stopped doing she doesn't do them anymore, but when she used to do them, I would work with the local satsang group that I belong to. And literally every time, however we had everything planned up, and the stuff that we did was stuff we did every year. So everybody, everybody knew how it was supposed to go. And literally you went there and never went that way. Every freaking catastrophe you could think of would happen during these programs. And everybody at that programs was edgy and mean. It was one of the things, like, people just literally couldn't work together. It had to be about personalities. It had to be about egos. People literally saying, like, well, I'm not going to help you. I could help you, but I don't want to. And these are people who are supposed to be following the guru, right? But it literally would, bring out the absolute worst in everybody. And really, when you got back to it, the whole idea is, how do you stay centered in the middle of all that? That's like a microcosm of life, How do you stay centered in the middle of that? And these things happen, I think, sometime to show us, how centered are you? How are you able to, we're talking about flowing with things when they happen. How well do you do that? Now, how well I would have done, I don't think there's a scorecard. I would say that there's a lot of areas where I was very unsettled, and then some other areas where I just kind of went, all right, this is what it is. So, I don't know, but again, and I kept thinking about it, well, I should try to do this and that. And I was like, no, actually, I don't need to try to do anything. It's just doing what's here, doing what it is. So anyway, it's been an interesting couple of days. And as I've mentioned, I am going to have some delays on some of the stuff I'm getting out, just because I don't want to rush to try to get everything in at the same time. I want to give myself an extra day. So let's look at our reading for today. What's our first card in the center? Change. Wheel of Fortune, right? Change. And this is change, by the way, that is not change that you have control over. This is change that happens to you. This isn't change that you can control. And that's literally what we've been talking about today, is change that happens to you, and that you can't. I can't decide today, no, we're not having a storm and losing electric. That's not a decision I get to make. Part of the problem that I also have with people think that you can fix everything and fix your narrative just by thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, Dad, try to fix that with your mind. Anyway, our inner feeling of which we're unaware. Oh, interesting. I'm just going to say this. All but one card is a major arcana. So, yeah, we're talking about something majorly transformative. And I don't mean just this event or anything. I just feel like there's a major transformative energy more generally. Inner feeling of which we're unaware is integration. This is the Temperance card. So, yeah, this is about integrating experiences. Temperance to me is always been about, a lot of times we talk about temperance as having to do with balance or with peace or with patience, and it does have to do with a lot of those things. But temperance is also about the way in which we take all of our experiences and integrate them, not keep the ones I like and purge the ones I don't like. Although sometimes we do, especially when we're dealing with connections or stuff from other people, we do purge toxicities. But this is about integrating. And integration is a process where, we're trying to find a place for the stuff in ourselves, in our system. As I've mentioned with Tantra, it's the whole idea of Tantra is the idea that everything is sacred. Even the stuff that Western religion, or even Eastern religion to some degree, at least the more institutionalized versions, will tell you is, oh, that's bad and you should avoid it. It's all part of everything. If you are somebody who believes that God created the world, and I don't know that I necessarily believe that in quite that way, but okay, let's just say you did. If you want to keep it from that simple perspective, then created all the stuff, good and bad. So why do we privilege one and not the other? We don't like bad experiences. We don't like painful experiences. We don't like things that mess us up or bring out what's in shadow for us. But that's part of life, that's as much as part of all the good things that happen to you, The external feeling that you're wearing, here's our friend, the no thingness card again. Okay, we had this the other day. Nothingness, this is the Hierophant card. Yeah, you're in the gap. Like, you know, you're integrating, there's stuff that's being integrated, there's change, but you don't necessarily, you know, after things have changed, you don't necessarily know what comes next. How do you, you know, you don't know how you're going to behave. You don't know how things are going to go. There's just this energy of not knowing you're not in one state anymore and not quite knowing what's going to happen in the next state. You know, like where are we going to? It's literally, it's black. I mean, you don't know. You can't see it. But even if we are aware intellectually, as I was talking about the other day, I was talking about experience versus intellect. Even when we're aware, it can, even when we're mentally aware, intellectually aware, it doesn't mean, it takes something bigger than that to kind of affect the body, for the body to become aware. Okay, for the nervous system to become really aware. Because that's really where your consciousness is. It's more about your nervous system and how, like I was reading in Alan Watts the other day, you know, how your nervous system relates to the environment around it. It's relational in that way. And when we have a change, because it's a change and maybe we're being, I don't know if the word is called, I guess I'll use the word called. We're being called to think about things or do things in a different way. This I feel like is saying, yeah, but we don't know what that new way is yet. Okay? So what do you have to have? This is the strength card, the courage. Okay? You know, so when you've got the rocky soil, like still managing to bloom. It's interesting because I feel like I'm talking about this situation that happened with the power outage and all that kind of stuff, and also my conversation with my friend. And I feel like they're actually connected because I when I was talking to him, I felt like it was like it was almost like, well, yes, there's all these wonderful things, but what's the use? Who cares? And I'm like, but that's it. That's the rocky soil from which you want to produce something. You don't want to give up on it and just say, well, nobody cares anymore, and it doesn't, because nobody thinks it makes money, or they don't think this, or, you know, or it's just easier and more convenient to do that so I can spend more time doing I don't know what. Then it's saying, no, it takes courage to be able to stick with what's authentic, to stick with what is real, really. What is real? What is authentic? What is our truth? What is the truth that we have to offer to people? And our outcome card is friendliness. So this is the Two of Cups. And I feel like, yeah, this is about the way, you know, connecting with others. You know, the idea of being in a network support and not isolating yourself. I think a lot of times when we feel where, you know, how is it one of my colleagues used to say, John the Baptist crying in the wilderness? When you feel like you're not talking to anybody, or you feel like you're producing something and nobody's paying any attention to it, or, you know, this idea here of that there is support, or going out and seeking support. Because the other piece of the conversation was, we were talking about people operating from a place of wounding. And when we're wounded, we tend to say, well, the heck with everybody else. I'm going to do this on my own. And the idea is, no, that's part of where the courage is too. It's just kind of like, no, you want to work in connection with other people. And you want to, and again, the Two of Cups, or Two of Water in this one, that's emotional connection. That's not just, oh, hi, I'm business networking, and you are useful to my business cause. You know, you're a business contact who might be useful for this. So that's not about people being useful. That was another topic that had come up yesterday, being told, well, are you useful or not useful? Well, what does that mean? You know, usefulness, useful for what? I mean, you know, it's all of us. Everything that we all have an aspect of ourselves that we share with others. And so basically it's kind of saying, you know, having the courage to do that. But it often means, and I feel like there's a lot of changes in the world, again, not about this individual event, but changes going on in the world that are kind of moving us towards that. And so the question is, like, a lot of times we revert back to old ways because we don't know what the new way is. But it just seems to be indicating the way forward is through friendliness, is through being out there with other people, through connecting with other people, rather than trying to, I mean, certain things we have to do on our own, right? But to a certain degree, this is about sharing what you have with others and trying to connect with others is really what's important here. Because I think that's one thing that we're losing. Weirdly, we have the internet, which really opens things up in a lot of ways, but it also has isolated people in a lot of ways, because people sometimes will get into little bubbles and not go outside of them, or not look at anything that's outside of a certain context. So yeah, so as it has expanded things, it has also isolated people. So this is about and information and all of the things that go along with it. Knowledge is so freely available that people treat it like nothing, like it's trash, and that's what I think we need to get away from. It's just like, no, step back and just look at the whole wonder of existence and of the things that you know, and of the things that don't have to do with anything making money, that don't have to do with anything so-called important. What's important? I mean, being alive and experiencing being alive is what's important, But is it important? Or are we just worried about moving from one milestone to one milestone? Oh, let me accomplish the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. I mean, yeah, it's always good to learn and expand your horizons, but this is also about making sure that you connect with other people. That's what this is saying today. Yeah, there's a lot of changes that are happening. A lot of us don't know how to behave in these changes yet. So, courage is required. The courage to reach out, to expand, and not to retract, not to contract. Okay. So, so that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And again, sorry about yesterday. Not that I could do anything about it, but it was not my intention to not have a morning coffee yesterday, but nature had other plans. So I'm very glad to be back with you. I'm so glad for all of you who were able to join me this morning. And again, I will have the one from Thursday that I didn't get to post will get posted today, along with this one to YouTube. And of course, it is available here on Instagram. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate having you here. I hope you have a great Saturday. And if you're in the U.S., great Memorial Day weekend. Again, I will be back on tomorrow. I will be back on every morning, barring anything else happening. I'll be on every morning. So some of you I will definitely see tomorrow. So enjoy your day.